professionals, festivals professionals across the island, but also from a number of professionals from across the globe, not just the region. So that was very exciting for them to be here on island, and it was the first time that that music convention was held in the Caribbean region. The music convention has been held all over the globe, but never in the Caribbean region. And they constantly sung Anguilla's praises. So that is a testament to how they were treated while they were on island as well. I also want to thank my ministerial colleagues, Mr. Jason Bryan and Mr. Cardigan Connor, for their support as well during this period. The Festivals Commission. Last Thursday, Executive Council approved the Festivals Commission Act. This was a great achievement, certainly for me as minister. It is something that I have believed in for quite a number of years, long before I got into active politics. So I'm very proud that this Festivals Commission Act is being passed under my tenure here as minister. The act will come to the House of Assembly tomorrow for the first reading, and then it will go out to consultations. It will come back to the House of Assembly for debate on the 25th of November, and we are hoping that it will be immediately passed on that date. We will immediately appoint the board immediately after the passage of the legislation, and we will start the recruitment process of 3 operation members of staff immediately thereafter. So we will be working aggressively over the next few weeks to ensure that this commission is fully up and running for 2026. Currently, we have, in my ministry, we have a number of things that are under procurement that are critically important. We have the air conditioning units for all the primary school auditoriums that do not have air condition. We currently have the procurements out so that all of the primary school auditoriums can have air conditioning units. We are also going to be repainting areas of the Adrian T. Hazel Primary School, so that also should be out under procurement as well. We will be having the retrofitting of an area of the Lansing Bowl Cultural Center specifically for the Festivals Commission. Also, we're going to be completing phase 2 of the Lansing Bowl Cultural Center, which will house the offices of the Department of Youth and Culture. It's important to note that these are 2 separate spaces. So the Festivals Commission will be held on one side of the Lansing Bowl Cultural Center, and on the opposite side, the Department of Youth and Culture's offices will be held in those locations. I encourage all persons to listen in tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. for the budget presentation by the Honorable Premier. And in addition to that, also next week when we have the various budget debates, our ministers, including myself, will go through all of our plans for 2026. We will discuss new spending, priority areas, and things that are important to us as an administration. So I again wish to put on record my sincerest gratitude to the members of my team, my permanent secretary, my new principal assistant secretary, and my department heads and operations staff for the outstanding work that they have been undertaking as well. I'd also like to encourage persons to visit the Anguilla Youth Business Foundation's page. They have an amazing opportunity that's coming up next week, Monday on the 17th. It will be held at Cap Juluca. This will be a very interesting and informative session where persons can learn a lot more about the AI space, but in a very informal, relaxed atmosphere where much learning can be undertaken. So I encourage persons to visit the Anguilla Youth Business Foundation's page, and I want to put on record my sincerest gratitude to Ms. Wenikwa Romney for the amazing work that she's doing in promoting the work of the Anguilla Youth Business Foundation as well. Thank you so much.
I think it's my turn. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll start with tourism, and then I'll pass on, well, I'll say a little bit about health as well as sports, but pass on to my colleagues, Honorable Evans McNeil Rogers and Jason Bryan. But to start with tourism, talk about an international engagement. And our director of tourism recently attended T-Fest Chapter 6, that's in Mexico, a global luxury travel gathering that brings together high-value buyers and destination suppliers. The participation from Anguilla underscored our commitment to elevating the destination's profile among the top-tier travel networks. This successful engagement included networking, one-to-one meetings, and building relationships which will support future bookings and product development. Virtuosa Webinar International Market, under the coordination of Mr. Cone Richardson, a team hosted online webinar sessions with top agents from the Virtuosa network. These sessions provided a valuable refresher of our destination's offering, delivered updated product information, and reinforced Anguilla's value proposition to key travel advisors. Engagement of these agents and networks ensure that our tourism product remains front of mind among partners who serve high-yield travelers. As my colleague Shelia Rogers-Webster mentioned about the music convention, which was held last week from the 4th to the 6th of November, that was the first time in the Caribbean, but highly successful. I think a number of the personnel that I spoke with from overseas were overly impressed with Anguilla as a destination, but just as important with the product that was presented for the convention. The dive show, we are pleased to announce that our marketing officer, Mrs. Sharon Richardson Lowe, will be representing Anguilla at the upcoming DEMA show. That's in Orlando from the 11th to the 14th of this month. And the upcoming Tourism Week, I think we all look forward to that. The tourist season, as we know it, has already started, but Tourism Week, as far as you know, for that presentation will start on the 30th of November to the week, that is, from the 30th of November to the 6th of December. We are looking ahead as we invite all stakeholders to participate in our annual Tourism Week from Sunday the 30th to Saturday the 6th of December. This week-long initiative will feature community events, trade engagements, media activations, and opportunities for product partners to showcase the unique appeal of Anguilla. So in summary, and that it's these engagements reflect the board's proactive strategy. That's the Anguilla Tourist Board, from high-level luxury trade shows and specialist dive events to content-driven media coverage and grassroots community programming. Our objectives remain clear, that is to raise Anguilla's visibility, deepen agent relationships, and drive sustainable tourism growth for our island. A little bit on, we talk about a tourism planner or the participation in the regional tourism. The tourism planner, that is Jolene Robin Williams, along with other delegates from Anguilla, they attended the 11th CTO Human Resource Conference, which was held in the BVI. This conference was themed The Human Touchpoint, provided valuable insights into human resource practices within the tourism sector. And in recognition of our seafarers, plans are underway to formally recognize past and present seafarers. This initiative aims to preserve and celebrate Anguilla's rich maritime heritage and cultural history. And there's also a restoration program with the infrastructure. The ministry is spearheading the restoration of various signs and national tourism developments. These efforts are scheduled for the first week of December. Further details on the specific projects and timelines will be provided in due course. A little bit on health from my standpoint before I pass over to the senior advisor. The new oxygen plant was commissioned at the Princess Alexandra Hospital on the 31st of October. Anguilla's achieved another major milestone in health infrastructure development with the handover of this new centralized medical oxygen plant, and I'm sure my colleague will talk a bit about that as well. This facility represents life safety and resilience. It allows us to generate our own medical grade oxygen right here in Anguilla and deliver it directly to every patient's bed. That means no more interruptions in care, even during storms or global supply chain disruptions. What has happened is that the value at just over 600,000 US dollars. This project was made possible through partnerships with the OECS Commission and Direct Relief, one of our development partners. Last week, we welcomed a team of 4 healthcare professionals from the United Kingdom, led by Professor Ian Cumming, the UK Health Ambassador to the overseas territories. He was here to assess the quality of healthcare services, primarily focusing on the Princess Alexandra Hospital. A similar exercise was previously undertaken in the Falkland Islands, and it was thought that this approach would be beneficial for other UK overseas territories, and hence the mission to Anguilla. I do believe Montserrat is next in line. The team's report will provide valuable, objective feedback to guide further service improvements at the Princess Alexandra Hospital and across our health system. We thank the Governor's Office, which was very instrumental in arranging this mission, and the visiting team for their constructive engagement, and we look forward to the report and recommendations. Jason will do a bit more on sports, but for now I'll hang over to my Senior Assistant in Health, Honorable Evans McNeil-Rogers.
Thank you very much, Cardi, and a pleasant good afternoon to those of you who are listening and then listening in or viewing via the various media methods. By way of update, I would have attended a healthcare financing conference in the Bahamas since last I was here at this press conference. The team from Anguilla included the chairperson of the Social Security Board, the acting commissioner of health, the PAS, the head of the procurement office, and myself. It was indeed a very enlightening conference. There were a number of initiatives and there were a number of recommendations that were made. We were all aware that comes to healthcare, no one size fit all. From Anguilla's standpoint, taking into consideration our limitations and the size of our population, that we could benefit from a mixing and matching of what is successful out there in the healthcare financing aspect. Healthcare, as you know, is increasing. The expenses are increasing exponentially as we go along, but we have to work together regionally and globally to help mitigate some of those increased expenses. A number of countries would have presented their model going forward. So the individuals from Anguilla who attended that particular conference would have lots of notes and number of pearls so that they could use. I also attended, on behalf of the Minister of Health, the PPS, Pharmaceutical Procurement Services meeting, and the Ministers of Health meeting in Ada. Of course, the discussions were centered around the challenges that we are facing as small, developing island states, face the procurement of pharmaceuticals. There are a number of manufacturing companies out there from all over the world who want to infiltrate the Caribbean area by various methods. But we have to be vigilant and can't be dumping grounds for some of these pharmaceutical companies. We have to look at the quality assurance and quality control medications that we use for our people. So again, there was a lot to gain from those meetings, and we pledge to continue to work together and to address some of the challenges that we are facing through the OECS and the Pharmaceutical Procurement Service. I would want to mention here that this government is working very hard trying to come up with a solution to problems that the Department of Health Services employees would have faced as a result of the restoration of salaries for the civil servants. Of course, the Department of Health Services, now a government department, and they are civil servants as well. I don't need to rehash the dismantling of the Health Authority and the revocation of the Health Authority Act. But the injustice, what I would call the injustice that was done to the employees of the Department of Health Services, we're working hard as a government to try and address some of those issues. There is no secret that information, certain documents, surprisingly, are missing. But at the end of the day, in lieu of not having that particular data available and going through all of the nuances that accompany that, we're looking at what I would term an appreciation allowance that would span from the time the government civil servants would have gotten their first portion of their restoration. I think that was in January 2024, and then they would have gotten second percentage increase going back to the 2008. They would have gotten the second increase in January 2025. So as a result of that, we are pretty close to finalizing, again, what I termed as the appreciation allowance. And this is just my terminology. It doesn't mean folks in finance and accountants and so on and so forth would term it that. Other references is ex gratia, but I term it an appreciation allowance. Appreciation in the sense that it's only 124 facility that we have. And for the most part, those folks are there. There's no closing. There's no 8 to 4 or 11 to 7. It is continuous. I think we have to appreciate them for their hard work in these difficult circumstances. A lot left to be desired. Come to equipment and we come to services and so on and so forth, short staff and all of that sort of things that they have to face. However, I wouldn't want to preempt the Honorable Premier and the Minister of Finance's budget address tomorrow, but just to say that I am hopeful that what is provided in the budget for healthcare and the means in which to be able to accomplish what we want to accomplish, that the staff in general will have to be looked at. Shortages, the various healthcare sector, provisions will be made for that. There is a provision that is in there for the initial stages and the preliminary discussions for a new healthcare complex. So it's a lot of work to be done. We are looking at that in terms of a 2-year project, starting December next month, 2025, and hoping that we will be able to break ground, God's willing, in December 2027. We're not going to be that irresponsible. Look at this as something for political gains, but it's for the people of Anguilla, and it must be dealt with and must be taken seriously and not rushed through like some of the other projects on the island. I would have said on a number of occasions talked about equipment, imaging equipment and so on for the hospital as it is. And happy to say that we would have done quite a bit of work and demonstrations, and we would have traveled to the DR for GE demonstrations, to Orlando for Siemens, and Miami for Philips. We have decided that we are going to go with GE in terms of our C-arm, in terms of our ultrasound, in terms of our mammography equipment. We have also decided that we need to purchase a number of orthopedic equipment, finalizing that at the moment, and some dental instruments as well, so that we will be able to improve the quality of our healthcare in the imaging and the dental aspect. But overall, we're doing it one step at a time. I believe in the latter approach. You take one step at a time. There are a number of issues that must be addressed, and we cannot address all of them all at once. But if you take it step by step, you will get there. So that is basically what I would have, move forward with. Executive Council would have approved a policy on the dialysis. It was passed in EXCO. We know patients who needs dialysis in order for them to stay alive. It is important. We know that the cost is very expensive. And as a responsible government, irrespective of just making a promise out there, like the previous administration did, that all dialysis patients and services should be free, we've got to put it in policy, pass it through Executive Council, and do what is right. Because our folks, our patients here, would have anticipated that the statement made, prior to the last election, that we would have honored it. But we are honored, and we have done much more than just honoring a blanket statement. We put it into policy, put the checks and balances in there and the requirements. So again, kudos to the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Finance, my colleagues in government, for taking this initiative further and seeing it through fruition. So again, a star or a feather in the cap for a young, brilliant, and working government.
Good afternoon to all. Thank you for joining us, the ones that are viewing via the live, media that's present. So as you may know, I am working in 2 ministries, and I will start off with sports. Because the dates for sport is that the first outdoor gym will be installed by the end of this month, November 2025. The main sponsor is Liberty Cooperative Credit Union. And the purpose of this outdoor gym is an initiative to promote fitness and wellness within the community. So this is the first and the only one that will be installed. And the doors are always open to new donors that are willing to come up front for other outdoor gyms to be located in different communities, benefit of all. The Blowing Point basketball court, the structure, as I've mentioned previously, not fit for purpose. We have engaged with the company of B7 Global LCC, a California-based company, to build the new approach, and they were successful through the procurement process. So the new approach is that this new structure will be built to international standards to be able to host, obviously, regional and international tournaments. So this company will be providing the steel frame, the floor and the seating, the basketball rims, and the deployment of 2 consultants to oversee the site installation process. The cost is $215,000 US. 50% has already been paid. The other 35% is due upon the shipment. Once the shipment has started, the steel frame should be on island within 8 weeks. And the last 15% is due once it arrives on island. It's important to put on record that this does not cover the labor of the labor. So this process is going through procurement, and once it's finished, obviously we'll inform the general public. So yes, we understand that probably intentions were that this just to have a facility, a basketball facility in Blowing Point. But as a small island, I don't see it appropriate that we currently don't have basketball court with has the standards, national standards, host these kinds of tournament, and we only build a structure that is going to be used only within the communities. It's best to invest once and for all, and that the structure is prepared to host also international tournaments. Representations: the swimming national team participated in the 33rd OECS Championship in St. Vincent. That was from the 7th to the 9th of November. The national youth under 33 volleyball team is preparing for the Eastern Caribbean Volleyball Championship in Antigua that will be hosted from November 12th to the 17th. On the other side of the Ministry of Social Development and Education, the Albina Lake Hodge Comprehensive School Sports Hub. I'm happy to inform that we are closer to the final design of the sports hub that will be built at the Campus Q campus, which will include a 200-meter track, covered multipurpose facility that will house basketball, tennis, netball, and volleyball. Monies will be allocated for the 2026 budget to complete this project between 2026 and 2027. Other sports facilities that will also be included in this project are 5v5 football field, 8 batting cages that will house batting practices for cricket, baseball, and golf. We've had consultations with the PE teachers, associations, and all relevant stakeholders to ensure we bring forward the best option and invest once. The purpose behind this sports hub is obviously to promote sports, but also to provide new sports avenues to the students that are in school, and that they have options to decide when it comes to sport, and not only free sports that are always there, but that they can want to shift around, try a new sport, have space that do the practicing and skilling. ESL, or English as a Second Language. I'm currently working on hands-on approach to build a very successful English as a Second Language program that truly benefits students that are having challenges with the language barrier. We have a donor that has come forward to support the rollout of program, 3 primary schools, Adrian T. Hazel, the Valley Primary School, and Kelly. And more information will be coming forward by the end of this month. Baseball, a representative from the baseball camps, or Baseball Without Borders, has reached out to show his interest in the development of baseball in Anguilla, and we will be engaging him and hoping to have successful development programs in Anguilla. And also with the youth, I want to put on record my gratitude. Martin, friend from Global Minister Joseph Vanterpool, was recently on island, and he conducted a series of presentations for youth at Innovate Anguilla, where he spoke to them in terms of internship and AI, how business been developed along with AI. Also want to put on record my gratitude to Monica Romney from the Youth Business Foundation for the hands-on approach when request was I sent forward to her, and the way she managed to conduct a successful engagement between Martin. That will be okay.
Thank you very much. And so we'll now open the floor for questions.
Yeah, I was missing something. Also, the cricketers that were attended tournament in St. Kitts, they're back on island. Can't say it was same success as we had in Antigua, but they did their best. And, you can't always expect to have the best results. It's just a matter of continuing to prepare and work as a team and move forward.
Good afternoon, Lloyd Gums from Lloyd's Live. Madam Premier, I've been asked several times, and up to prior coming to here, I was asked to ask you the question in reference to the pension fund. When will that be established?
Yes, so as I would have mentioned before, you're talking about the private sector pension fund, right? As I mentioned before, that what we're looking at is having a unemployment benefit program through the Social Security system, and that unemployment benefit system, we are hoping to twin it with the private sector pension plan. So we've been speaking with the Social Security Board. We also would have engaged the actuary from before in terms of putting that together. So we're waiting for the actuary to come back to us in terms of how that would look.
Mr. Richardson, you made reference to bringing in more fruit trees. You made mention that some smaller farmers who have plots are interested in signing up for the program. What about individuals who do small backyard gardening? Can they participate in that program also?
We have not really discussed it as far as for backyard gardeners, but I think that is definitely something we could look at. I know next year we'll be looking into supporting backyard gardeners as it relates to crops and vegetables, but we have not discussed it as relates to the natural trees.
Mr. Brian? You made mention of an outdoor gym. Where will that gym be located?
Thank you, Lloyd, for the question. And yes, I forgot to mention that. That will be located at the James Ronald Webster Park.
Okay, and you made mention of dismantling the structure that is in Blowing Point. What is going to be done with that material that is dismantled? Can it be reused?
Great question. So that's still in discussion, and yes, it can be reused. I'll obviously put on record that that process is also going to undergo procurement soon. And there are thoughts, nothing yet concealed, but there are thoughts of providing a space for boxing, another sports avenue that can be built.
This was asked. I was asked to ask this question to Mr. Connor or you. What's the position on the sports grounds for the Alvin Allison Primary School?
That the Allen Allison Richardson Primary School sports ground, a lot of that work is done through the Anguilla Football Association. And right now, in fact, they were waiting on a pump. Would you believe that somebody stole a pump that was there? So again, that's an added cost and time as well. But that's a project that has been ongoing for quite some time, but I think you'll find that within the next couple of weeks, it'll be moving ahead quite quickly.
Good afternoon. Niamke Brooks from Red Anguilla. Mr. Vanderpool, you would have mentioned that Identity Digital will soon be on Ireland to discuss next steps, promoting the .ai domain and whatnot. I was wondering about the training that they promised for Anguillians. We don't know if it will be through dates or there, but can you give us an update on the proposed training?
Certainly, and thank you for the question. The training programs is one of the things that we will also be discussing with them. Initially, when we would have met with Identity Digital after the elections, it would have seemed or been what it came across as is that persons within the Department of IT and e-government services would be trained. So primarily the persons within DITES would be trained for the running of AI, but we would have expressed that our idea of a social contribution of training goes a bit beyond that, and to include training within the community, training of younger persons, etc. So while that was not what the original scope of the agreement was, Identity Digital are keen in partnering to be able to facilitate such. One of the ways or avenues we have discussed and they've made some progress on thus far is partnering with the Anguilla Robotics Association to be able to train the youth that currently participate there in more technology focused and development training. But in terms of larger, more societal training and how we can get maximum impact for more youth on island, that's continually an ongoing discussion. But persons within DITES have already been engaging with persons from Identity Digital to get more up to speed in terms of the management of the AI domain.
Madam Premier, going through community, many civil servants have been. I ask you whether or not we'll be getting double pay this Christmas.
I would encourage you and the other civil servants to pay attention to our budget tomorrow.
The US has recently made a program or policy to not allow some foreign nationals from accessing with pre-medical conditions such as diabetes and obesity to not be allowed for visas for medical treatment. US. Although we here, some of us have UK passports. How do you respond to persons that don't have that opportunity and who would need treatment in the US that will be denied?
Yeah, so it's something that we're looking at. It also involves discussions with the governor. International affairs falls under the portfolio of the governor. We are also going to be attending the Joint Ministerial Conference in November later on this month. And one of the topics that we have on the agenda, that's been on the agenda for many years, would be access to more beds at the through the NHS. What's happening now in the US only solidifies the issues that we've been discussing, and so we do intend to address it at that time.
In relation to the budget, you would have mentioned that this is probably the first time it is to be happening so early. Budget address and budget. And recently the Cayman Islands and the BVI would have recently had their budget debates also. Is this a recommendation by the UK for it to be this early or just very proactive?
No, in fact, the budgets were ordinarily late in December, and so this is really the time frame that is provided for by way of legislation. So we are actually on time this budget season.
Question from Brian. So the basketball facility in Plum Point, is it supposed to be only for basketball or be a multi-purpose facility?
Good. So with the previous design, it would have only been able to play a bit of basketball. But now with the new design that we're working on, it will be able to host both volleyball and basketball, because the height will be increased up to 30 feet and above. So it will be expanded out, the steel frame, also play sports inside.
How are the plans coming along for redeveloping the Webster's Park?
Good. That's a wonderful question. That's a conversation that's still in process. And once we have all the details, we'll be sure to share it with the public. I know Mr. Connor would like to add anything.
Yeah, we made that commitment. Again, as I said, that the former Anguilla United Front government would have made a commitment back in 2017-18 by going to England, working with the West Indies Board to source funds for the rebuilding of the pavilion. And of course, we lost the election that followed. But now we're back in office, we will see it through. So it's a case of working with the Cricket Association and also work with architects that can give us the best possible for what's available to us.
Mr. Rogers Webster, bit of experience the security situation at the school today. How secure is the school in the event that weapons can come in?
Thank you. I think that's actually an excellent question. The reality is that the school compounds it's quite large, and even though you have fencing, different areas, different perimeters, there is access to certain perimeters. And so over time, we will continue to assess security risks over time, but it also speaks to the need to make sure that our security system at the entrance is as robust as it should be. I know there were a number of parents that have complained over the last couple of weeks and months about the time it takes to check children when they're coming in. But it just goes back to show how important it is to ensure that we are doing these necessary security checks upon entry. I'm asking parents as well to assist in checks. No matter how old your children are, you should be checking the bags of your children, checking their rooms, remaining vigilant. If you see something, you need additional support, you can reach out to the Department of Social Development, you can reach out to the school, you can reach out to the police to provide additional assistance. We're here with resources to assist, but everyone has to work very hard in trying to secure our facilities as much as possible. But we do recognize that even in the most ideal settings, things can slip through the cracks, people can slip through the cracks. That's why it's so important for students, teachers, to be very vigilant. And we appreciated the fact that a student decided to call in to report something. This is the type of thing that we expect to happen. Even if the student calls in anonymously, at least some sort of registering of an issue is registered, and that is critically important because the police were able to respond rather quickly. They were able to lock down the school and do the necessary checks. And in spite of the fact that nothing was found, it's just important for us to be able to follow these protocols because the one moment you don't take something serious can happen.
Mr. Vanderpool, you've spoken very ambitiously about making a billion-dollar industry, billion-dollar economy with the use of AI. How are those plans coming along?
Well, there are a number of different facets in terms of making that a reality, and ensuring that, for example, our domain revenues continue to grow is an important piece of that, but it's about diversifying and leveraging our connection to AI to help boost that. It's a unique advantage we have that most other places, whether they're interested in the field of AI or just utilize it for its benefit, they don't have the same leverage that we do. So it's an ongoing thing, whether it's the development of the policy or working with Identity Digital to see how we can go about boosting sales and revenues. That is all part of ensuring that we do meet our goals. So for example, we're seeing the strong revenue growth. We're expecting to hit the first 1 million domains under management by the first quarter of 2026. We're talking about what strategies can we put in place to work with the registrars. For example, perhaps gamifying them, putting them against each other in a competition to say, okay, we're at 1 million. Who's going to be the one to help us get the largest market share between 1 million and 2 million? Little things like that, because if we do see the revenues we're seeing with 1 million, imagine if we do get to 2 million. And we're seeing the steady growth, and we have to remember that every 2 years, every growth that we do will double every 2 years if we're able to hold on to them and get them to renew. So it's about maximizing our strategies for the growth of the .ai domain, but also leveraging the unique advantage that we have to make sure that we get the best return on investment. So whether it's through the active policy or leveraging networks and talking through the different stakeholders to see how we can best leverage that advantage, things are well underway, and I'm confident that in the next 5 years, Anguilla will be in a much better fiscal position than it is right now, and the future is only bright.
Minister Hodge, After the GST reform, you mentioned that they'll be continuously looking at how the reform is taking place and the advantages or disadvantages there are. How are we looking right now? Some persons are complaining, some persons are grateful. What is the response from the ministry, and how effective is the reform?
Yeah, it's a mixture of reviews out there. I can say for certain that as it relates to the construction and the hardware sector, we are hearing positive results, positive news. Myself, I would have gone to hardware recently and noticed a reduction because apparently they still had their old price with the GST included up, which is not the right way to do it. But it was able to show me that, hey, what we did with the reform, it worked. So when I got to the register to pay, the price was lesser than what was on the shelf. So that kind of displayed to me that, hey, this thing really worked for us. In restaurants, we would see where on your overall bill, it is 13% less because you don't have to pay the 13% GST anymore. And I would have gotten some direct reports from servers who would have said that their tips increase. And I would have spoken to people that visited the island during the summer vacation who expressed to me that, hey, had you guys not done what you did, I may not have been so generous with tips, right? So we come to supermarkets now where there's more volatility, monitoring, the items in the stores. It takes a lot more time because of the differences in brand, the differences in size and type. It's an ongoing process with the supermarkets. The Consumer Affairs Unit, they have a report that they are finalizing, and once their report is done, I'll bring the report to the public. Whether it sounds good, whether it sounds bad, the report is the report, and the public deserves to hear what the report contains. I would have gotten some preliminary information from the report that indicates that some supermarkets, they would have noticed some savings to the consumers, and others not so much. So I can't wait for that report to be finalized and we can share it with the general public.
You have also spoke about plans to developing a portal to see prices across all the goods, various supermarkets. How is that progressing?
Yeah, we're working on it. I was just in contact with a minister in Barbados because they have something very similar, and we are getting full appreciation and understanding for what all goes into it, and then from there we'll just take it in house and work with whether diets, whether we have to contract it privately, because the sooner the better.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Sazam Hall from Class FM Radio. My first question is for Paulsec Richardson. You said during your presentation that works at the airport is 90% completed. My question is, what is the set date that was agreed upon in the contractual agreement where the contractors are obligated to turn the project over to the government?
I'm not privy to that information. I don't know if Mr. Vanderpool.
Thanks for the question. The original date that was scheduled for the opening of the airport terminal, I believe, would have been November 17th. And as discussed before, due to a number of different reasons, we expected about a 3-week delay. So we're currently expecting the airport terminal building to be officially opened within the first or second week of December. So it's not that much of a delay based on the time that was originally scheduled.
No, but I think the time when it's supposed to be open is different to when the contractors should turn over the building to the government. There's a time for completion, I think, and there's a time when the contractors should turn over the building. I'm not speaking about the actual opening of the building. I'm speaking when the contractors should turn over the building to the government.
So The actual handover of the terminal building to the government is a process that takes place. It doesn't just happen as you get the keys today. Government and the contractors will walk the building together once the contractor says that, okay, we've completed this scope of works. The team from the government and the evaluators will then process and say, okay, we need that change, or we're not happy with this. We think that we'd like to see this amended. And then through the process of operational readiness and testing, the contractor will go back and make those arrangements before the final handover is made. So we're currently in the middle of that process where we're evaluating, we're meeting, and we're going through the operational readiness and testing while the main security equipment at the airport is being installed.
And based on works that have been done, you're confident that it's going to be open in December?
By all accounts and all reports that I've gotten and from walking it myself, yes.
My second question is for Minister Hodge. You spoke about those developers at Savannah Bay, where you said that you have been in contact with them. I think government would have changed sometime in February, so there have been a 10 months gap since the government has changed. And the fact that it took so long to reach out to you, it means that they have been playing a bit of dodgeball. My question is there a time frame where those lands should be developed? And if there's a time frame, are those investors aware of that time frame when the lands should be developed?
Yeah, they should be aware of the time frame. We still need to meet and have a very in-depth conversation. I wouldn't characterize it as dodgeball. They would have experienced a hurricane back in Florida, where they reside and where they currently operate different businesses. So perhaps that would have been a setback as well. And I would have heard the former premier express this as well. I don't want to come to any judgment as to why we have not gotten in touch with them sooner. I am quite happy that we have finally made contact. And the blame and that thing, I'm not interested in nothing now of the past. I think we need now to just look forward and try to wrap this up as best as possible.
You said that they have been speaking to hotel chains, I think you said. Are you aware of any hotels that those chains have developed in other countries?
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing for me to publicize at this moment. They're having some private conversations with 2 of those chains, and they're gonna have more conversations with others. So while they undergo their negotiations in private agreements, I just wanna, we're gonna wait to see what is the final outcome of their various negotiations that they will have.
Okay, my final question is for Minister Brian. About 2 months ago, you spoke about a sporting facility, which I think you said will be comprised of volleyball, baseball, cricket, etc. What is the update on that facility?
Thank you for the question. I believe you're referring to the sports hub. That's the same one I spoke about in my report. And as I mentioned, we are close to the final design of the Albina Lake Hodge Comprehensive School Sports Hub. And the new approach that we're having right now, it will include the 200-meter track, the covered facility, which will host volleyball, netball, tennis, and basketball within that covered facility. And the other sports that also will be included is, as I mentioned, the batting cages, 8 batting cages, which will be housing batting practice for cricket, baseball, and also golf will participate in that for their practices, 5v5 football field. So we are still in the planning stages, but we are very close to the final. So once that's also finalized, we will bring the final report.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Pleasant afternoon, Shavian 018 Voices Radio. To the Honorable Minister Hodge, as it pertains to Rendezvous Dune Club, who are the developers or investors, and are there any other updates you can give us about that project?
I met with them this morning. The principals of Rendezvous Dune Club, I know one of them. You know, they are a longtime visitors, lover of Anguilla, who just wanted to buy a home. You know, build a villa, and you know, have that for his vacation purposes, and also to be able to rent it from time to time. He would have purchased some property in Rendezvous, as you said, and based on the size of the parcel of land, there are requirements to be followed. You can't own more than a half acre of beachfront property without it being some form of tourism development product. So he was engaged by the relevant technocrats, and it was explained as to what are the requirements based on the size of land purchase. And based on the size of land purchase, it is required that he builds at least a 32-room boutique hotel. So we are working through the MOU, and we are working with planning to ensure that we have the correct room density that matches the acreage that was bought.
So, in other words, it's not one of those properties to say really, how to say it, more so for the competition, or to say a part of the local hospitality competition, but more so as a way of filling contractual or requirement terms for the property.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, his history is not in hotel development, but he is a businessman who loves Anguilla and who wants to get involved. He will then look for a management company to run his property once it's completed.
Can you tell us at what stage it's at, or are we still at the preliminary stages?
Yeah, we just about ready to finalize the MOU. He would have had drawings already done. So we are the next step is to sign the MOU and for him to submit his final plans to be approved by planning. Once those two things are done, then he would move on to breaking ground.
Awesome, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who this question goes to, but it's been brought to my attention that there has been some bags of cement, some massive bags of cement sitting down at Sandy Grounds Port. It's been said that it has been sitting there for about 8 months, and the question I'm asking is, who owns it? What taxes have been paid on it, and what is being done about it? Because from how it sounds as though it's sat there, it's gotten hardened, so what's happening with it?
Yeah, I'm aware of the cement in Sandy Ground. Actually, if you drive on Back Street and look over, you'll see lots of bags. For the time that it has been there, it does raise some questions as to whether or not it would be actioned, because the way the process works, when you import goods, you then pay your customs duty, and then you pay your ASPA fees. And the fact that these cement bags are still there, it would mean that customs duties were not paid, and perhaps ASPA fees were not paid. And I know from past instances, ASPA doesn't have any power to waive fees, because I did hear at one point that there was some communication, because they wanted to have the cement bags out and they wanted some fees waived, but ASPA does not have any power to do that. In terms of the condition of those bags of cement, I don't have any information on that. But they have been there for quite some time, and we have been battered by a lot of rainfall and some storms of recent. So it's a very interesting question. I know customs, there's a procedure. Once something is impounded for so long, the next step would be to do a public action. I'm answering, but I don't know if the Premier has anything to add to it.
I think you've answered quite well, Minister. Yes, it is currently, I don't believe that it has been cleared from customs, and it would be accruing fees. And So I'm not familiar in terms of exactly the notice that has been sent out, the time frame for auction, etc. But there is a process, an established process that when items are not collected at the port, that they would go up to auction at some point in time.
Thank you for your responses. To Mr. Vanterpool, can you give us a timeline as to when lands will be acquired for runway extension?
Thank you for the question. This matter actually falls under the Ministry for Economic Development, Lands and Planning. However, what I can say is that the matter is currently with the Director of Lands, and in order to help accelerate the process, we're looking at establishing a committee to various different stakeholders to help accelerate that process by, instead of putting the burden all on one person, to help share the load and maximize efforts. I'm not sure if Minister Hodge would want to add anything else to that.
Yeah, if I can add, we hope to have all the lands acquired by end of year. We would have engaged a company from the BVI just recently for their services to come in and help us to evaluate a certain number of those parcels. And we have also put together a committee that will assist the land acquisition manager, who is Mr. Leslie Hodge. He's the Director of Lands, and he is also designated as the Land Acquisition Officer. So in order to give him the help that he needs, we created a committee of other technocrats that will aid in the evaluation, aid in the negotiation. You know, I don't recall how many landowners. I don't remember that number. If anybody else remember, yeah, for the land acquisition project, yeah, it's upward of 30 landowners that we have to negotiate with.
So essentially what's delaying the process is the number of land acquisitions and staffing, or because what I'm trying to understand is at least what is delaying the process, or is this usually course?
Well, there's a process to be followed, and there are many competing things throughout government. So you know, we find it fit and necessary to give the Director of Lands some assistance. So we believe that by end of year, this will all be completed.
Okay. Thank you. My last question, to any of the government ministers, really. The last 8 months have been rocky and rough. How does the government feel going into the new financial year, considering the budget is tomorrow?
Feel pretty good. And we'll encourage everyone to listen to the budget address tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, I think that brings us to the end of this press conference. And so we would thank all of you who have joined us, whether in person, or social media, or radio. Thank you and have a wonderful week.